Welcome to the finals of the ESL Open Cup 237 for the South Korean server. Now, generally speaking, it's Hero going up against Dark, right? That seems to be the go-to standard. We see Classic making it to the finals, Solar tends to do well, and there's a little bit of variety. And then suddenly, one day, we have a French man flying across the pond to play in some Korean events as well. Playing right here in the bottom right-hand corner. With the blue Terran pieces, we have none other than Clem. Absolutely ravaging his way through the bracket, it seems. So, yeah, pretty impressive to see Clem going over to Korea. Apparently, he's there right now. Not exactly sure what the plan is, but... And he's still playing some good old StarCraft 2 as well, but this time around on the Korean server. His opponent, though, in the opposite corner, playing with the red Zerg pieces. He goes by the name of Solar. Of course, one of the very best players from Korea. But I can imagine he would rather be playing against, well, for example, Bjorn, maybe Kjör. Instead, he finds himself going up against Clem. Now, of course, this is the server where Clem does not have the polar bear spinning around on the main command center. He does not even have the C in his nickname capitalized. He's also in Clen 430 milliseconds, which I guess would normally be his ping whenever he's playing from France on the Korean server. But in this particular instance, I don't think that's going to be the case. Now... Seems like basically all of the Korean pros live in Seoul. I can imagine that is where Clem is currently located as well. So, safe to assume that the ping is going to be pretty much the same for both of these players. Now, I have talked about this a little bit as well in a previous cast where I featured Clem on the Korean server too, when he played against Dark in the KSL Finals, the Korean StarCraft League. I was thinking about it, right? So, you can't really criticize Clem all too much. He's one of the very best players in the world, but the only people he regularly loses against would be the Koreans. Clem can go from doing extremely well against players like, for example, Serral, players like, for example, Raynor. He obviously plays against MaxPax all the time. Those are some of the very best players in the world, but then he goes up against the Koreans who just play the game a little bit differently, and he doesn't seem to be quite at the same level. Now, he still, wins a lot of his matches. He still seems to win the majority, but I can imagine if you are, really taking your practice as serious as possible, and we obviously have the World Cup coming on, it may just be that you are going to be facing off against some of those top-tier Koreans, and it might be a good idea to get a little bit of additional practice under your belt. Not sure if that's true, but that's what I'm thinking. And already we have Clem going for build orders here that are, it's something he plays, but he's been playing the matchup a little bit differently, it seems. So in that series against Dark, very good one, by the way, one of the very best series I've seen this year. In that series, he went for a lot of straight 1-1-1. No quick third command center. He did go for a little bit of Hellion Banshee. But normally, right, 9 times out of 10 on the European server, Clem will open up with a single barracks into a command center, into a factory, into a third command center, then a starport. That's the build he pretty much plays all of the freaking time. Now, we'll still see variations of that same theme, but it seems like Clem is mixing it up a little bit more. Maybe, just attempting to see what these styles feel like and creating a little bit more variety. Normally we would not be seeing Clem play 4 Reapers. Like, this is a Bjorn build. This is something Bjorn does all the time, and it just seems like he's experimenting a little bit, which is nice to see. I haven't, by the way, seen as many Solar games as of late. Last time I've seen Solar play in this matchup, he would basically do the same strategies over and over and over again. It was very quick hives with very quick lurkers. I'm not exactly sure if he's going to deviate from that plan, but it's been a couple weeks, I guess, since I've last seen Solar play. That seems to usually be his go-to. Alrighty, we've got ourselves a good old Hellion, or no, it's going to be a good old Medevac follow-up here. Stimpack already coming up. It'll just be a 16 Marine drop, I guess, or at least a Marine push on the back of this, with those Reapers really not achieving all too much. They got a couple of the Zerglings, but for the most part, they've just been occupying the Zerg for a bit. Third hatchery, though, still coming up at a reasonable time. Creep spread not looking bad as long as we keep spreading it around. This should not be an issue right here for Solar. There are a lot of Zerglings, though. He was probably hoping to see if he could grab those Reapers, but the Reapers set up in this alleyway over here, this corridor into the Terran's main. Only one of them really could be attacked here, and they should all be easily able to get to safety. Third command center flies on over, and we do have a armory coming up, so it is actually some Hellion production. Okay. Yeah, so again, something that we normally wouldn't see from Clem. I thought this was going to be double medevac production, but it actually seems to be a follow-up right now with a Hellbat push. There are no NG base yet. There's the third gas geyser coming up as well. Yeah, this is actually a Hellbat follow-up. So kind of cool. I'm not sure if this is like the new go-to style for Clem or if he's just experimenting. But it is cool to see him playing a little bit of a different style. Okay. So, we have 4 Hellbats, 4 Reapers, and 18 Marines. Probably about 16 on this side of the map. Now this is a relatively late Baneling nest. Medevac does get sniped immediately though. The Marines and the Hellbats are having a good time. I think eventually reinforcing Zerg units should be able to clean this up. The Medevac being such a valuable target. No more energy on the Queens, but just so much damage coming out of them in general. Yeah, and considering this is a triple CC opener, it's not like the Terran's economy here is absolutely terrible. So actually, last time I saw Solar play, he was playing Roaches a lot. If you open Roaches and you find yourself going up against this exact Terran attack, it's relatively easy to hold. But this is actually Solar now doing the same thing that we also saw Dark do. Favoring double upgrades before Lair, before Baneling Nest. This is something Zerg players used to do for years. And then they've all pretty much, well, transitioned away. I wonder if this is specifically a response from the Zerg against the double Rex opener. The one with the Reapers. We'll have to keep an eye out on what Solar decides to do in the rest of this series. Hydroden coming up. Baneling speed, of course, researching as soon as that lair is done. Will we see an infestation pit here super early as well? Or is he going to just continue playing Hydroling Bane? Normally when we see really quick upgrades like this, it is more Hydroling Bane focused. Or I guess you could make it like an Ultralisk focus as well. If you want to go Ultras though, you would have to go into an infestation pit right about right now. And I don't think you can really afford it. Clem already hunting the 4th hatch. This hatchery is actually quite late. Yeah, I don't know if I like this build from Zerg too much, to be honest. Lovely player by Clem, who after trading armies and shutting down a bunch of the Queens, is really making it difficult for the Zerg to continue droning up. Those Hellbats, still putting in a lot of work. Okay. Nice splits though here by Solar. Gets it done here in the end. In the meantime, there is a little bit of a counter-attack. Great split there as well. That's going to be an easy Widowmine to pick up. Alright, now if Clem can get the kill on this base, that would be huge. But I don't think he's quite got enough. Nope. And immediately upon that pickup, we see drones queued up. Zergling attack is maybe going to continue onwards for a little bit longer. Maybe we're going to see a couple of them morph themselves into Banelings. But it seems to me that overall this will be pushed back by Clem. Okay. So this is not an all-in. Clem not doing the 8 Rex variant. The one that Oliveira seemed to be specialized in. Clem instead is going to go for the 4th Command Center first and then Barracks 6, 7, and 8. 2-2 has also begun. Obviously those upgrades are a little bit later than they normally would be. Zergling run by once again, but I believe that the Terran reinforcements should be able to clean this up. This fight actually could be very nice for the Terran. There are still some roly-poly Banes though. Yeah, I'm loving this aggressive Clem style. Like, obviously he's always been aggressive in the mid-game. But because he's more aggressive now in the early game in these matches we've been watching, the creep from the Zerg over on this side of the map, for example, is just not good. That's all a result from him just being hyper-aggressive earlier on, and he's just rallying everything he's got towards the other side. Look at the minimap. He's flying the 4th Command Center towards the right side, and he's just rallying all of his reinforcements in this direction. Alright, Hive is coming though. And with it, there's a light at the end of the tunnel in the form of a Lurker Den. So Lurker Den is an incredibly important structure here. Oh. Finally, one of the Banelings slips through the cracks. One of the Hydra steps forward as well to try and tank the damage right there from one of those mines. I think if there's going to be like 4 or 5 lurkers, it'll be much easier for Solar to get anything done. Normally with the 4th command center being secured, this would be the cue for Clem to go into a Ghost Academy. All the timings are obviously a little out of whack. I would love to see some creep tumors going down here, Solar. So we have a Widow Mine drop. Followed all of this up as well. Oh, retargeting gets both. Lovely. You retargeted that Widow Mine to get both of them. Here's the transfer of the drones back into that base. And 4 workers go down. In the meantime, he's also pushing up north. Oh, big Hydra hit. Clem is everywhere. Now, there was a little bit of a counterattack as well. 5 SCVs have gone down. Looks like I missed it on the minimap, but at the very least, Clem did not. Must have been a little bailing attempt. Okay, now Solar is very good. I would probably call him the best defensive Zerg in Korea. He's very good at just not dying. And ultimately, right, even though the road that he's taken to getting here, I mean, we're not quite here yet, but ultimately, if he can get towards to Hydra Lurker Viper with Ling Bane for support, he will be in a comfortable spot. Clem is trying his very best to prevent that from ever happening. Good split there once again on that drone. Both of these players playing a very fast game. In the meantime, there is also a push happening all the way at the 12 o'clock position, but there's enough defense left over. Clem's attention down south. Those units cannot be microed perfectly. My god, they're still going to town. Okay, so it's lurker time. You. These 4 right over here. Do it. Make me look good. Ah, he's prioritizing Banes. Lame. Oh! Okay, I was not entirely correct, but he did take some of the low HP ones. Alright. Liberators coming up. Now, we do have a Ghost Academy, so that's important. Clem was trying to see if he could win before lurkers would ever be out. That's not the case. It is important that we don't go full Bjorn, though, because sometimes Bjorn thinks that he can stim Marines into lurkers, and I mean, it's optional. It can sometimes work out, but generally speaking, it is not the preferred strategy. Okay. Okay. Impressive defense here as well from Solar. This base over here has been under threat for like 5-ish minutes now, and it's been defended. How many times have we seen a game where the Zerg just slips up for a second and that expansion disappears? Suddenly everything is very... Oh my god, 5 command centers on the production tab? Jeez, Clem. Yeah, I don't think he cares anymore about 8 SCVs. Although there is a big fight happening up north as well. 5 command centers is a lot, though. I wonder if we're getting a little over-eager, because now it's Solar's time to strike back. The lost supply here of the Terran is being replaced with, well, some more of the same, but also a whole lot of ghosts. Ghosts and Vikings. Very nice to have. 3-3 is also finishing up right now, by the way, which is going to make this Terran army quite a bit more powerful than it has been over the last few minutes. Nice little bit of double scanning as well. What's better than 1? It's 2. Clearly, you can get double vision. That's what you need if there's a Dark Templar being cloaked by a mothership. You need 2 sources of detection, right? I think that's how it works. Anyways. The ghosts are needed up north. Solar's creep spread is still pretty terrible. He's got a little bit of it over here, but nothing all too crazy. There's only 19 tumors here in total. At this stage in the game, you kind of expect to see double that number. But game number 1 immediately is a nice little macro game. Yeah. You know what? The longer that this goes on, I don't know if I necessarily want to say I favor Solar, but it is like this transition from like early late game to late game seems to be one of the vulnerabilities in Clem's play. Where sometimes he gets a little over eager with his command centers, or like he's caught off guard against the Zerg aggression. This is a vulnerable moment for Terrans in general. I think if played perfectly, it is very doable. So the Vikings here are actually going to town. I think I must have gotten one of those Vipers. This is a part in the match, though, a stage in the game, where Terran can generally be attacked. He's trying to make the transition, though, towards that ultimate Terran late game. Basically, what you hope for is a lot of Liberators, a lot of Ghosts, a lot of Siege Tanks, maybe some Marines, Marauders, Medevac, that sort of thing, but mostly a whole lot of Command Centers. If you get up to about a dozen Command Centers that grow little orbital hats on top of themselves, you don't really have to worry much anymore about your mineral economy. Still though, these fights are dangerous, right? We're not quite in that ultimate late game yet. We're not quite yet at a point either where we can really get rid of a lot of those SCVs and just replace them with mules. Nidus Worm coming up for Solar, who's been defending this base over here using the lurkers. Top right hand corner will be scouted as well with the sensor tower. Clem has got one little exclamation point on the radar there. That gives him the intel that he needs, though. You can't really go in there. No, you can't really go in there without any ghosts. He does see the Nidus network, so that's nice. We don't quite have any missile turrets around the left side of the main base. And I think indeed, yeah, this is usually the line of attack for the Zerg. We are gonna need to see something like that, because Nidus Worm in the main base, couple lurkers in range of the ramp. Super difficult. Okay, ghosts are already running. How many ghosts are we on? We're at 18 ghosts, 19 ghosts right now. My god. Clem is not afraid of ghosts. I'm afraid of ghosts, personally. And the crocodile under my bed as well. I check for that every evening. Clem, much cooler than me, evidently. Did he kill the Overseer? Oh. Maybe the Overseer joined in with the rest? I'm not exactly sure. Anyways. Maybe he sniped the Overseer that was going into the corner. Ghost here, very exposed, but luckily there's some medevacs in the sky to keep all of this alive. This base, though, is running dangerously low. And it seems to me that it's once again that transition for Clem here. From early late game, I think that's the best way I can describe it. Early late game to late game, this seems to be the moment where Zerg players can catch him off guard. We saw the same thing from Dark. I think in practice, what Clem will find is that he wins a lot of games by now. Right? Like if you don't go up against one of the top 5 Zergs in the world, you probably win the game by now. So you don't get as much practice for that situation. Maybe that's why going to Korea is not such a bad idea. Okay. I mean, this is a nice attack though from Solar. In the meantime, there is a push up north as well. Drones decide to use the network to evacuate on out of there. Hatchery in the far top right hand corner got destroyed. The Zerg army is trying to chase all of this down. Okay. Nicely done. There's one infester. You're underneath the vision right there of that Overlord, dude. Oh my god, he didn't see. Ah, this could be really painful for Clem. This could become really painful for Clem! That fungal could be huge. Oh my... Oh, okay, I think that was reasonable. That could have gone a lot worse. He actually saw that infestor coming in. Like, he had vision of it. That was a lucky moment, though, for Clem. Like, that pickup was clutch. And I don't think it was because of the infestor, but the rest of that Zerg army coming in close. A lot of SCVs have gone down. And I think, once again, we see Solar doing what Solar does best. Up with his back against the wall for a very long time. And then when he gets to Hive Tech, he just looks so powerful. Defense, 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 defense. And then he strikes back. Yeah, just don't die. That's the plan for Solar. Now suddenly, Clem is sitting at 120 something supply. He's got 5 orbitals. Yeah, really not amazing. Solar has gobbled up the entire left side of the map. Clem hasn't been there in quite a while. I mean, he's rallied some units in that direction right now, but there's already a lot. Okay. Wouldn't mind stealing some friendly fire here too. Ghosts are dying to Zerglings though, which is never really what you're hoping for as the Terran. We can EMP the Infestors, I guess, and anything else, but there's still more in the back. Brilliant play here by Solar. Lovely control. He's very strong when it comes to controlling all of those different hotkeys. Infestors, Vipers, main army, multiple control groups of Hyderling Bane. Lurkers in every location. Separate control groups, obviously, for the Nidus network and anything else that needs to be set up. GG. Solar plays a very, very good. I'm honestly very impressed. He plays a very, very strong game, number one. Good old Solar. Still playing the style that he has been playing for years. And that's not really the type of practice you will get on the European server, right? If you look at this from Clem's perspective, like who on Europe can you really practice with right now? If Raynor is spending a lot of time in Korea, if Cyril is currently in the military, you can obviously practice against players like, for example, Lambo, for example, Elaser. But I would imagine that Clem, yeah, at least for practice sake, has a lot more very strong opponents over on the Korean server. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. So let's see. Plus Korean food is kind of OP. Let's be real. I mean, French food is good too, but... Actually, in all those years of casting StarCraft, right? I have never actually been to Korea. It's still on my list of countries to visit, but I'm secretly hoping one day there's gonna be, I don't know, any sort of tournament that invites me to come and, you know, go to Korea. I've never been. One day I'll have to go. It does seem like, pretty much a necessity as a StarCraft fan at this point, although obviously a lot of the StarCraft tournaments, the vast majority of the StarCraft tournaments, they happen outside of Korea these days. We'll have to make the pilgrimage one day. Alrighty, so what are we gonna do this time around, Clem? I don't think, by the way, that game was unplayable for Clem overall. Like, he was in a very good position at the end of the mid game, but then that like, you need to flip the switch, right? From being hyper aggressive to being quite defensive instead, where you sit behind your command centers, you go up to your ghost count, you try to make that liberator transition happen. It's a difficult move to make, and I think that transition, I'm not exactly sure what Clem should do differently, but I think that's probably what he's looking at as well when it comes to these type of games. Where exactly should you make the adjustments? Do you still want to move out? Do you just want to use like a medevac or two instead? Maru is better than anybody when it comes to making that call, to switch from aggression to defensive play. But obviously the problem with Maru is that he doesn't play in anything right now. The World Cup is coming up. Maru is not gonna try and show anybody anything. Obviously, a lot of the games will be played with custom matches, so a lot of programmers like to practice using customs. I'm assuming Maru is one of them. I'm not exactly sure. So say, for example, I don't know, Solar is playing against Maru in practice games all the time. There will be a bit of an agreement that those games are not going to be shared. You can actually set it up in the match history as well to not show any of the build order. So if you try and make a custom game in StarCraft 2, you can hide a lot of the data that would normally be public. And the norm is to basically hide all of that data, to not show anybody anything. Anyways, couple of Cyclones coming up. Stimpack together with Cyclones into double barracks. So again, strange opener here from Clem. So this is a double barrack start with Stimpack, a very fast factory, but the factory is just to try and get a couple of these guys out. Now sadly for him, he didn't quite get the kill on that Overlord yet. Although I do believe it will be going down at some point. Sometimes it does feel like Terran can kind of just do whatever though in the early game. All the roads eventually do lead towards that Bio-Terran mid-game, but so far, He wanted to kill 2 overlords, he got nothing. Solar did already prepare extra OVs in advance, because he didn't know that they were gonna live. Very quick Baneling Nest actually, this time around for Solar. Yeah, link speed is not done yet. So quick triple hatch, quick queen production. Ultimately, the damage here is quite nice from Clem, but yeah. I think we'll have to wait and see what he can do with the Stimpack finishing. So now it will be Medivacs on the back of this. Okay. So it is actually quite important here for Solar to not get too used to his supply. Because when Clem is gonna move out, he will certainly make a little stop by both of those overlords. That could result in quite the supply block, although Solar is actually making non-stop army. You know what? Solar is going for a Baneling bust. A good old Baneling bust. I think Solar is saying, yo, your quote-unquote creativity here, I don't like it. I've got a feeling, though, that he is gonna run head first into a Terran player who just hit a massive power spike. This could get really, this could get really awkward. Solar sees it right now as well from a mile away. Keep in mind that there is Stimpack. Oh, he needs to, okay, whew. He needs to certainly raise those supply depots. Is there enough for the Terran? This is why the Terrans play Marine Split Challenge in the arcade all day, every day. A lot of the SCVs are stuck together. Lovely work here, though, by Clem. Holds that relatively easily. Okay. I think Solar, he looked at that, right? And he's like, okay, this is not going to happen. He started droning pretty quickly again. But his worker count is quite far behind that of the Terran player at this point in time. Plus, there's a 3rd orbital already finishing up. Stimpack is done, of course. Combat Shields is just about to be finished. We should see 1-1. Yep, start up quite a bit before that of the Zerg. So nice attempt there by Solar, but I think ultimately it's not really going to matter that much. Clem doesn't know if there's more aggression coming, right? Yeah. So he doesn't know how many more Lings and Banes there are. So before he commits his entire army to moving out and securing the 3rd base, he's just checking here with a Medivac, and apparently it's been deemed safe-ish. We're gonna make the assumption that it's quite safe. This siege tank over here is being tucked in. Yeah. Very lovely here by Clem. The motherly embrace of the SCV. Tucking in that siege tank, minimizing surface area. Just enough room over here to breathe. But also the possibility to really lay down the damage. Ooh, 2nd factory coming up. Okay, nice and quickly. Extra barracks coming up too. Zerg is not quite in that scenario yet. I like this position for Clem a whole lot better, because not only does he have a solid economy and a solid army, he also just has a lot more time so far built up. So, we need Baneling speed? Solar apparently under so much pressure that he may have been forgetting that. Either that or he's got a different plan. It's quite a sloppy upgrade to forget, especially since it's quite cheap these days. Great targeting. Great targeting right there by the young Frenchman. Yeah, without Baneling speed, the follow-up attacks are gonna hit too hard. So that upgrade is actually super important. Quite a significant slip up here for Solar, who hasn't gone Hydra Den. He hasn't gone Infestation Pit. It is just Zerglings. We really need that upgrade, Solar. I think he forgot. He's had the money for it for like 2 minutes now. Yeah. He starts making Banelings right now too. He's got a couple of them. He must realize that they're waddling quite slowly, right? I mean, the fact that he hasn't checked when that upgrade is about to finish up also scares me a bit. There is zero reason to go lair if we're not going to make use of any of the lair. Alright, anyways, it's a Zergling, maybe a Baneling run-by on the other side of the map. The tucked away siege tank though. Really, really safe. And this attack here from Clem, currently on the other side of the map. It is Hit, yeah, it's too strong. I don't see how Zerg can hold this. All right, GG. Alcyone is going to be our third game in this best of 5 series. Let's see. I think Solar at the end of that previous match realized, oops. Whoopsie daisies, I forgot. I don't quite have my bailing speed. Especially in games that are a little bit chaotic. It is easy to accidentally forget very basic upgrades. Especially when you autopilot those upgrades, right? So there's this funny thing about StarCraft where a lot of the moves you do are fully automated because you've done them so many times, right? So it's just autopilot, it's full muscle memory, you know exactly how you're supposed to play it. But because the moves that you repeat most frequently, right, those are the ones that generally get automated, it's very easy sometimes to forget one of those very basic but super important things. If you miss a round of Queen Injects, for example, as Zerg, that's another easy thing. Zerg players aren't actively thinking about, oh yeah, I need to start up, I need to do an inject, right? Like, they don't have, like, it's an internal timer, right? They're just sort of there. They're so used to the amount of time that goes in between. Oh, how did he just... Solar, how did you just make the decision to turn that drone around? What? That's an insane... Like, he was thinking, like, he was already sending that drone up north. It's a tiny move that doesn't really have much of an effect. But, Solar actually just turning it around is like, yeah, no, I'm actually gonna plant it right over here. He knew that the Reaper was close. Alright. Anyways. What are we gonna do this time around, Clem? So this is very normal. So this is the normal strategy that I consider to be Clem's standard. So what we have is a Reaper, Command Center on the low ground, follow up with one single Marine. That one single Marine is good against spawning pool first type of openers. So this was a 15 hatch build from Solar, so he doesn't really have to worry about anything like that. But then it's a follow up, of course, with Hellions, third Command Center, and then eventually a Starport. So the Starport is relatively late. If we want to make this completely standard, we go Banshees. So Hellion, Banshee, cloak or no cloak, doesn't really matter. But this is the safest way to play the early game as Terran. And the style that Clem usually favors. Yeah, he's been going for a lot of strategies that he doesn't normally go for. Ooh, he's found a bit of an opportunity. Okay. 4 drones already is not bad. If he can make a 5th? Okay. The Jetpack Raider is the only thing living now. This does obviously make the follow-up Hellions a little bit weaker, though. Like, the follow-up Hellions are just not as useful at this point, but still quite nice, I guess, to get a few additional ones to, yeah, go around. He's gonna do it again. The man's in Korea for a couple days and immediately starts playing very Korean styles. Oh. The drones just got the perfect surround. Go Hellions, I choose you! Hellions encounter Zerglings. It's very effective. Alright. So no cloak this time around. It'll just be, I think, a single Banshee. No, we could go... Oh. Alright, we're faking the cloaking upgrade. I like it. So he started up a second Banshee here. And he's faking the cloaking upgrade. That is obviously not the cloaking upgrade. But the only thing Solar sees is the green light inside of the tech lab. I wonder if he canceled that too early. Yeah, he canceled it. I think he canceled it ever so slightly too early. I'm fairly sure Solar saw that it got canceled. But anyways. Spore crawlers have already been forced out. Additional barracks coming up. Third Command Center flies on down towards the low ground. Okay, so we have a lair. We've got ourselves a Baneling Nest. We should see Baneling Speed and then eventually the 1-1 upgrades as well. So this is what we consider to be normal. Why can't you just be normal? Right? This is normal StarCraft. I know that may be a bit of a strange way to commentate a game, but this is the gold standard, the current meta in this matchup. Except for link speed. Why in the world is... Sorry, what? I didn't even consider looking for the Zerg link speed upgrade, because it's just... How did we play this entire game without link speed so far? Okay. Well, it's not entirely normal, never mind. Apparently we're... Okay. We're going delayed metabolic boost. 1-1 upgrades though, as well as the Baneling Nest here. Relatively normal timing. None of these are particularly early. Yeah, I think Solar looked at those Hellions YOLOing in earlier and he's like, I don't really need my link speed right now. I'll just... Maybe he cancelled link speed. I wonder... If you realize that you don't need Zergling speed within the next 2 minutes, I wonder after losing drones if it's a good idea to cancel link speed and make like 2 additional drones. I mean, if you're gonna lose like 5 drones to a Hellion run by, remaking those other drones, these additional drones, a little bit quicker, might be worthwhile. Not sure. Anyways, Hydralisk Den coming up. Mailing speed is already done. Zergling speed has now also finished. This should be a lot more manageable than the previous game from Solar. Hellions still parked over at the watchtower, of course. Now they're going to turn into Hellbats. Very difficult position for the Zerg player to take control of right now with just Lingbane Queen. But the Queens can try. They need vision across that little bit of a line of sight blocker. But ultimately they can use their range. Speaking of range though, that upgrade is coming up right now as well for the Hydralisks. So Hydraling Bane will be the name of the game right here for Solar. Clem is also starting up his own 2-2. I think this will be followed up very quickly here by Solar, yep. Will we see an Infestation Pit early again? I mean, I say early. It's curious how we don't really see that style that Serral was playing at the ESL Masters tournament. So Serral went undefeated in pretty much every series other than the one match that he played against Oliveira. Maybe there's been an answer that was found against that Roach Ravager into super quick Hive build. But Serral was going like pre-7-minute Hive in some of the matches. Now we're 8.5 minutes in, Infestation Pit is coming. But this is not quite the same speed as far as that mid-game to late-game transition goes here for the Zerg. Alright, big surround set up right now for Solar. He wants to see if he can collapse on top of this, but the problem is the creep is now disappearing for him. Yeah, is he gonna pull the trigger right now? Clem is slow pushing this. Trying to bring those siege tanks in positions where there's as little surface area as possible. My god. I wish I could zoom out even further, because I can't even get the entire Terran army on my screen fully zoomed out. Okay, is there enough? Great splits right here by Clem, but the Zerg army may just be big enough. Solar's been making non-stop army for quite some time. He cleans up the majority of those units, but he doesn't have a second wave of Banelings coming yet. I mean, it's morphing in right now, but they're not quite here. And that is going to give Clem an opportunity right now to move up towards the high ground. Those Banshees from the early game also joined in. Medivacs putting in a ton of work. Those Banes have just finished up. Oh, he's trying to leave individual Marines behind. The chosen ones to sacrifice themselves against the Zerg. Go, Jimmy! Get blown up by the Baneling! Jimmy, stand over there! Hold your shield up! Poor Jimmy, man. There were many of them, though. Emphasis on the word were. Okay. Clem, continuing the pressure. But I don't know, man. Now that the Hydra clump is getting bigger and the creep spread is once again down to the low ground, this hold is going to be much easier for Mr. Solar. Lovely work here once again by the Zerg, who's starting to snipe a couple of those Medivacs. The Medivacs are really the reason why Clem can continuously be aggressive. What's that behind you, Jimmy? Is that a Baneling? Rest in pieces, Jimmy. Again and again and again. Viper's coming. Sieging up a Liberator on a Spore Crawler is an ambitious play, but not a very good one. Yep, and this is that moment again that we were talking about earlier. And with we, I mean me. I'm having a conversation with myself. I get along with myself quite well most of the time. It's that transition from mid-game towards a late-game Zerg army. So we have +3 armor coming, Adrenal Glands. The Viper's coming up. Fully decked out of energy, pretty much, right? So Parasitic Bombs, Abductions. And this is that moment where Clem is going to have to play a much more passive game. He's been all over Solar so far in this match, but he didn't win the game with that. So instead what we find right now is the Zerg in the driver's seat of the match. This seems to be that moment where, yeah, Clem is struggling just a little bit more. But obviously this time around, he's doing it off of his gold standard build. So this is a little bit different than the builds that we've seen him play so far, where he like has been playing super aggressively. And then he has to transition from the mid game to the late game. This is a much more tried and true strategy right here for Clem. So I wonder if because of that it'll be easier for him to make that you know, proper decision making. Ghost Academy coming up. We'll see a fusion core as well in the future, I'm sure, if you can get there to get that Liberator ranged upgrade. Main order of business for now, though, is to survive. Just don't die. It's the main goal. Don't lose anything critical. Put on a little bit of pressure, maybe. Try to snoop away at a 5th base. He will have, yeah, he will have to get one of those here eventually. Really? We're unloading Medifex over there and the Marines. Okay. We have the burrow upgrade coming up as well for the Lurkers. Don't die, by the way, specifically for the Terran overall. Not for Jimmy. Nobody cares. No, nobody cares about Jimmy. Jimmy's goal is to be 50 minerals. Yeah. And hopefully get at least 51 minerals worth. That's his goal. That's all that Clem is really asking. So if you can take one Baneling to the face, a Baneling is 50 minerals and 25 gas. That is a worthwhile trade for Jimmy. Don't tell Jimmy though, he doesn't know. His mom told him he was special. Command centers coming up. A whole load of them. Factory number 3 also coming up. And he's gonna start creeping towards the right side of the map. Nice little drop, okay. Lovely play right here from Clem. This is a map, by the way, where it's quite a bit more difficult for Solar really to get into a good position against, for example, a planetary fortress. Like, how do you even, where do you put your lurkers? Like, you want to put them over here, but there's too many layers of structures to go through. Building armor is actually a really nice upgrade as well at this stage in the game. That's +2 armor for every Terran structure. Not usually very good, but in these passive scenarios, it can be incredibly powerful. There's the Nidus network again. We have an Overseer trying to hide in the corner. Didn't happen. Blinding Clouds over here are good though. Missile turret did not quite finish off the Viper. 15 SCVs go down and a scan is gonna reveal these Zerglings underneath. As finally the command center will once again be able to land. 15 SCVs though at this stage in the game, it's not really even something Clem is gonna remake. Nah. Clem has got enough orbitals right now to just replace those lost SCVs. Steve the SCV, much like Jimmy the Marine, just a means to an end. Any unit that costs 50 minerals is just something that Clem does not respect whatsoever. Here we go again though. Solar trying to win this game by suffocating the Terran on 4 bases. Lovely micro here by the Terran. Solar's got a lot of money in the bank. He's even got his own jimmies. Rinse and repeat over on the right side is probably the play. That being said though, that fight, it's difficult, right? Like, it's certainly not a cost-efficient trade, but at the same time, Solar knows that the only expansion that Clem can really take right now is the one over here. So as long as he can deny this base, eventually Terran's gonna run out of cash. Pew, 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 pew. All the Hydras are dead. Look at them. The whole line of them disappeared. Alright. That may have just been the time here that Clem was looking for. New siege tanks are coming up. They're gonna try and position themselves in locations that are difficult for the Terran player to get overwhelmed in. There will be lurkers with the next wave of attacks here from Solar. But I wonder if this expansion is now secured here for Clem. So it's important to note that 17 minutes in, that base actually becomes do or die. Look at the mineral count right now on the 4th. It's basically dried up. The natural, the main base, even the 3rd, pretty much entirely empty. So you can have all the command centers in the world, you can have all the potential to drop mules, but if you have no minerals to mine, life's pretty terrible. Nice play right there from Solar. Yeah, this choke point is just not one that Solar is really favored in. He can't really force an Infestor in there, he can't really force any proper Vipers. He's now gonna try and see if he can go up towards the high ground, but I think it's time to give up this aggression. Yep, the original plan from Solar was to try and prevent the Terran from ever getting a 5th base up. That plan is in the bin. It is time to come up with a new strategy. And the new strategy, much like the old one, is to try and prevent the Terran from ever taking a 6th. Take a couple trades here and there. Blinding clouds right now on the missile turrets. That allows those Vipers to be quite far forward. I really like what Solar is doing though. So look, he's also... So this is an expansion that's really difficult for the Zerg player to mine in the late game. So he's decided to transfer drones to this expansion early to mine those minerals out. If he's given enough time, this expansion will be dried up. And obviously, when it's fully dried up, there's really no way that the Terran is ever going to mine it. Clem's eyes, though, are set on a 6th base already. Solar has decided to give that location and is set fight over on the left side. If he can shut down the base over here, that will still be a decent trade for him. I mean, it's expensive, though. He's going to get the planetary. He will get a bunch of SCVs. I don't really like that. Yeah. 15 SCVs? Clem doesn't care. Those are 50 mineral units. He doesn't care about them. The creep threat is actually still denying that expansion here as well. So... maybe his eyes will be set on this location next. I think this Spire should have already been here. A Brute Lord transition at this point in the game would be quite nice, because this expansion is vulnerable to long-range units. Solar has been playing this incredibly well, but that's the only thing we can really criticize him on, I think. There's no reason for him not to have the Brute Lord tech available. He actually finds all of the ghosts over here. Blinding Cloud again is going to shut down a lot of this. Orbital Command has taken the position of the planetary. Zerg does decide to retreat though, with the new unit showing up. Lurkers over at this base. No cancel by Clem, no liftoff. Meaning that the planetary fortress attempt is gonna get shut down. Nice little jump right there by that lurker, although he's dead. It was still an impressive jump. Yeah, I'm very impressed by Solar. When Solar is playing games like this, he seems pretty much unstoppable. Second Spire coming up, so he's using double Spire. Slowly but surely, these minerals on the right side of the map are starting to run out. Another expansion here, with Clem's entire focus on defending the right side of the map. The left side is just exposed. We're gonna try and do another planetary, but the creep spread is still really good. Solar doesn't even really need to be scanning for this. He knows. He knows that this is going to be the case. Okay, this is an ambitious play here by Solar, but I wonder if he just has the numbers. Clem is having a hard time remaxing right now because he built all that infrastructure. But he doesn't quite have enough unit production at this point. He just doesn't have the minerals to make use of all of those buildings he's been producing. This expansion, I mean, it will maybe finally go up. Planetary is going to finish, but Solar's eyes are set right now on what seems to be the third and maybe even the natural expansion of the Terran. I love the transition all the way back to Hyderling Bane, by the way. As Clem is very focused on trying to play a late game army, very siege tank heavy. He's having a hard time keeping track of all of these super fast moving armies. But you know what? Props here as well to Clem for securing this expansion eventually. The next minute or two, though, are going to be critical. And I wonder if it's something Clem can survive. Just the sheer amount of Zerg. It is very oppressive. Solar still has some money in the bank as well, still maxed out. He's now also mixed in infestors. He's had a few of those already for some time, but I think they're a really good choice here. If microed well, the Vipers and infestors alone can just make it so difficult for Terran to break these spots. Golden Mineral Line is not going to be mined for now. He wants to get all of those ghosts. Those are the lifeline of the Terran. But Clem is slowly fizzling out. Solar is not interested in killing the planetary. He is just denying the mining. He's been denying the mining over on the left side of the map too. And he knows that Clem just doesn't have enough income. More than doubling the Terran supply right now. Honestly, Solar, like, he obviously doesn't have the information that we have. But he knows. He knows exactly how much the Terran has because he's played these games day in and day out. Brilliant stuff here by the Zerg. Alrighty. Crimson Court is next. Another one of those maps that a lot of Zerg players like to avoid. But when you're playing a best of 5, you can only veto so many maps. You'll actually have Zerg players in the current meta and the current map pool complaining about best of 3s. A lot of players are claiming right now that when they play a best of 3 against Terran, Protoss and Zerg players alike, you still have to play on like at least 2 Terran maps. It's always a little difficult to judge balance based off of the pro gamer's perspective though, because obviously everybody is always a little biased. But it seems like Zerg players and Protoss players have clutched hands together. And they have agreed upon the fact that the map pool is very good for the Terran. Hello. We gotta go to the middle of that pillar. No, this pillar is a little lame. Yeah, you gotta be in the exact middle of this pillar. This is not... A little more? There you go. There you go. There's a bit of a weird visual doodad over here. Only the central part of that pillar is... I actually don't know what the win-loss ratio is on this map. Hey, we're gonna play roaches. That's cool. Let me look it up. Let me look it up. Crimson Court. What is the win-loss ratio? Oh! It's worse than I thought. Jeez Louise. So Dynasty has like a 75 to 80% advantage for Terran going up against Zerg. Crimson Court is at 69%. Now I know some of you are going to say that's nice, but I think very few players would consider 69% to be a good win rate on any map for any matchup. So obviously that's only looking at the pro games that are being played. Yeah, this is a map that usually gets vetoed by Zerg players whenever they can. So it's a 53% win rate for Protoss versus Zerg. And then against... Or for the Terran versus Protoss matchup, Terran apparently wins 56% of the games. So basically, long story short, really, really good map for Terran. Now obviously this was bound to happen with the creativity that we have in the 9 map pool these days, right? All of the maps are a little bit different. There were always bound to be a bunch of maps that were going to be difficult to balance, as we have Clem attempting a build that really isn't necessary, but luckily for Solar, there were only 2 drones. Solar is actually doing a big roach push. So Solar wants to try and see if he can win this series right here, right now. And the plan is to do it off of only 38 workers. Let's see. Well, I mean, at this point, it's pretty clear, right? Oh, it's pretty clear here for the Terran that this is very committed. I mean, he's... Okay, Solar's actually marching back home here for a little bit. He's trying to push back these units and hope that he can actually have enough. Stimpack is going to be so nice to have, though. Yeah, I think this is Solar doing this strategy because he doesn't want to play the map. And obviously he's 2-1 ahead in a best of 5, so you may as well go ahead and give it a shot. 7 vials to kill a bunker. We don't quite have enough. The clock's ticking. Stimpack just about to finish, 10 seconds away. Bunker eventually does go down. The majority of the Marines still live. Clem actually started up the +1 infantry attacks in the middle of all of this. So that's how confident he is that he can actually hold this. Zealots, siege tanks rather, in the back. 17 SCVs have gone down, but that's totally fine. This is a triple CC opener from Clem. Clem can lose 20 more workers and still be ahead economically. And Clem easily holds. I mean, he had the micro for it, but that wasn't particularly close. SCVs were mining there again for a while. He didn't pull them again for quite a bit, because he knew it was going to be fine. Solar is committed, so he's making a bunch more drones on the back of this right now, but the next push from Clem is gonna hit like a truck. Okay. Sometimes there's actually this strange little disconnect as far as like balance patches and then also map layouts go, right? So maybe right now the maps are really, really good for Terran. What will likely happen is that map makers are going to start making maps that are a little bit less good for Terran, but maybe a bit better for Protoss and for Zerg, right? So they start making maps like that. But then you look at the tournament win rates, and maybe the balance team will look at it and they're like, ah, the maps seem to be making it a bit too good for Terran. We're going to nerf Terran a little bit. Usually there's like a disconnect of about 3-4, sometimes maybe up to like 6-7 months or so, where like you can have indirectly a double nerf, where like a balance patch already quote-unquote fixes the problem that existed, but then the map makers that were working on those maps like a half year prior have also, you know, found themselves in a position where they were trying to do the same thing. Maps actually have a very significant impact on the balance of the game. We're not going to see any adjustments, of course, until after the World Cup at earliest. But, yeah. I wonder if at some point there could be like an overcompensation for that sort of thing, you know? Because on some of the more normal maps, right? Like the Side Deltas, the Oceanborns, the Alcyones of this world. Everything does seem to be really quite nice. Alright, so Terran coming across. This is gonna be really tough. There's no upgrades yet for the Zerg. This is just roaches. We can transfuse cocoons, I guess, but there's no 1-1 yet. At least Glial will finish up, so that's the roach speed research. But Clem is already leading this game right now with a little bit of supply, right? So, you know things are pretty dire for the Zerg. When playing Roach Ravager, you are behind in supply against somebody who's going Marine Medevac. This is not really a Zerg army that has an easy time chasing all of this either. So what Solar is trying to do right now is quickly go into a hive together with lurkers. He's trying to stabilize, which he may just be able to pull off. If he can get to lurker play, which is still a little while away, because lurkers don't really kick in properly until you finish up both of the upgrades. But if he can get there, this game actually becomes playable again. Right now, though, it's the goal, just like Clem had in the previous game, to survive. Just live. There's a lot of jimmies, though. No banelings, no speed, no lurkers. Just a bunch of unupgraded Hydras and... yeah, there's not enough. I mean, this is not even fighting the siege tanks yet, and look how many of those there are. Yeah, brilliantly done here by Clem. GG. And that means it all comes down to this. Amphion, final game in this best of 5 series. A map that is statistically a little bit balanced, a little bit more balanced at the very least, compared to the previous ones, but also one that Zerg players seem to try to avoid most of the time. Let's see. What can we do? Usually this is a veto. Yeah. So Dynasty would be a veto. Crimson Court would be a veto for Zerg. Amphion would also be a common veto, especially in like a best of 3. But obviously then you would still have Ghost River and a bunch of other maps. Ultimately, what a lot of the best of 3s come down to, right, is Alcyone, Oceanborn, and then Side Delta. Like, those are the maps we see almost every single time because the other maps generally are just not quite as balanced. So we tend to see a lot of the best of 3s in particular be on the same maps. Not necessarily all the time. Not if your name is Dark, where for some reason in best of 3 series against Terran, map number 1 is Dynasty, map number 2 is Amphion. That series was insane. Don't quite understand what Dark is doing sometimes, but... Anyways, our final game here. Let's see. This map has a roughly 54% advantage, apparently, for Terran versus Zerg, which is manageable. Solar not really somebody who likes to wrestle in the mud as much as Dark would like to. Dark doesn't mind playing the crazy games. Solar, generally speaking, somebody who will try to play a little bit more normal. Now, this is a map that's, I guess, just a little funky in general, right? So I think it's pretty cool because these mineral walls over here, they give you access to the right side, or right side? The left side of the map. Left and right. I'm only 31. You can't expect me to know what the exact difference between those, locations is, right? So the left side is where my thumb is on the right. Yeah. Right is where my thumb is on the left. That's how my grandpa always explained it to me when I was a kid. Thank you, Grandpa. That was very helpful. Zerglings being microed. SCV, though, patrolling around over at the 3rd base is making it difficult for Solar to take that expansion. He hasn't seen the SCV go home, so that's why he hasn't actually attempted to take this. He's gonna try and make a move for it right now, since he sees the Reaper disappear. The Overlord here has been scouting that section of the map, and it's really the only path that SCV would take to go back home. Okay. Triple CC opener here again for Clement, and he's gonna be going into the good old starport. We should be seeing a good old tech lab here as well in a moment. And then some Hellion Banshee play. So, very normal build here for Clem. Overlord Scout is going to reveal exactly what's happening. Solar doesn't care exactly what's happening because apparently he doesn't want to see if there's an add-on already. I guess for him it doesn't matter too much. You're gonna need a Spore Crawler anyways, be it a Liberator or be it a Banshee. He doesn't really need to be rushing that out though. Let's see. Clem actually originally was very good at playing the Liberator opener. Liberator opener is a little bit more dangerous against the attack that Solar just went for. So if Solar would have gone for the exact build that Clem just lost against, or sorry, the one that he just won against, right? The Stimpack upgrade obviously is much later, and since we don't have any Banshees, it can be quite difficult to hold against that Roach Ravager Zergling all-in. But not the case. Little bit of a coin flip there maybe by Clem. But honestly, it's still manageable. Plus on this map, it's just not a great idea. Like usually maps that have a ramp leading up towards the high ground are just maps where Zerg doesn't really go for Roach Ravager all-ins in the first place. Because you need that high ground vision. And since on this map in particular, there is no Overlord pillar nearby where you could be parking an Overlord and then scooting forward to try and provide high ground vision, a lot of Zergs would just be skipping that build in the first place. NG base coming up. Looks like we've got ourselves a very conventional setup here. Nothing all too crazy. I say that. These are just the additional barracks for now. I thought for a second we already had barracks building up to 5. Thought for a second Clem was going straight into an 8-rex, but not the case. These are just barracks 3, 4, and 5. And he fires up the 1-1 upgrades. There is, transfusion available, so the queens will be able to keep each other alive. Push back that lib for now. Solar's been looking good, by the way, as far as the creep spread goes. Especially on that Alcyone game. His creep was ridiculous. We're just missing this tumor. Yeah, I think this tumor should be spreading up on the left side of the map. There's nothing preventing him from doing it other than an APM limitation. It's just remembering that you need to spread the creep over here. Because right now, Hellions and Reapers and everything else can't quite access that side of the map yet. There's the armory. Pretty early. We might just see an attack here from Clem in a moment. Yeah. It will allow him to transform those Hellions into Hellbats, of course. Oh, go back to the creep. Brenda, Karen, Margaret, Lily, Susan, Beth. I'm out. I don't know anymore. I need more boomer names. Oh god. Oh god. I warned you guys. This is accidentally game. This wasn't meant to be game. Yeah, all the queens are gone. Oh, nice targeting, of course, by Clem. We see skill checks like this in almost every match. And this is a reason as to why. Clem moved across the map, accidentally found half the queens with their tippy toes off creep, and well, at that point there just was not enough for the Zerg player to hold on that choke point, which is not one where Solar can actually defend. I think if those queens were just like 10 steps up north, right, a little bit spread out, more in like a concave, that defense would have been very manageable with the exact same group of units that Solar had here. But yep, Clem found an opportunity and immediately struck. GG.